Hey friends, welcome to Above the Fold podcast. I'm your host, Jess Cervellon. We're going to be talking about everything in your customer's journey. You're going to learn things about customer experience, brand experience, and marketing secrets that help you drive your brand success. So stay tuned, buckle up, and let's get into the episode.
This week, I am in New York City. I'm here very often, I'll be honest with you, but I don't live here. And this week, I am joined by Megan Fitzgerald, who is the Director of Brand Experience of Talea Beer, a female-founded brewery.
Nailed it. Yeah.
Only reason that took me so long to get out is because we literally, 5 seconds before even starting this episode, were like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get all these things out.
Yeah, so we're New York's first exclusively female-founded production brewery, and we focus on making beers that are easy to love, and by that we mean usually fruit-forward, low ABV, hazies, and kind of try to market towards everybody that craft beer doesn't normally market towards, which is really everybody but craft beer bros.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think it's like really sick that you guys have, like, you guys did this as females.
Yes.
You know? I think that's like so badass.
Thank you.
I want to dive deeper into that and like kind of like the journey there.
Sure.
But first, I actually want to start with your journey because you started as an event manager.
Yes.
And then came back like in 2021.
Yes.
And then came back in 2022.
Yes.
As brand experience. Like, can you tell me a little bit about that and like what brand experience is for Talea?
Of course. Yeah. So Talea they started brewing in 2019. They started contract brewing. So the company was founded in 2019, but they didn't open their doors until March of 2021 in Williamsburg, which is our flagship tap room where we brew everything. So I came on in fall of 2021. And at that point, I think in terms of like management and like salaried employees, like not front of house, I was employee number 5. I was hired on the same day as the marketing manager. So until that point, they didn't have a marketing manager. It was the founders, a director of operation, sales, and the brewing team kind of holding it together. So they brought on me essentially at the beginning to do event management, both on the private end and on the community end. So community was always really important to Talea and wanting to create a third space and invite people in, but also private event management is where a lot of money is at. So at that point I was doing both, which was a lot. And they're both big, huge arms of the business. But at that point, the company was so young, they didn't know that essentially the brand experience, the community facing part could be a whole role in its own and expand. And then was pulled kind of to a startup by a former boss who kind of painted a beautiful picture of what essentially kind of doing. I was chief of staff role, but the eventual goal there was to do kind of more brand experience stuff. The startup didn't work out. And then so Tara and Leanne kind of saw that I was looking again and welcomed me back and kind of pitched this new version of the role that was a little more holistic, handling the partnerships, having a stronger focus on community and brand experience, and kind of taking, I think what I had established is a lot of trust and a lot of vision for like where the company could go and who we could market towards and who we could invite in, and kind of trusting that more now that they had another year under their belt, more data under their belt, and kind of knowing that that's something they could invest in.
Yeah.
And so I was very lucky I'm the first person in this role, and it's been really fun.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting. I mean, because on this podcast, we talk a lot about like customer experience.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about marketing, right? And most of my guests definitely come from like e-commerce, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like you have like a whole digital experience. But the reason I thought it was really important to have a conversation with you is because brand experience, customer experience can be in so many different ways, right? And like you guys essentially have a brick and mortar.
Right.
With an online portion, but like for merch, right? Because you can't sell alcohol online.
Yeah.
But what I think is so important is that like community building piece of it.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It feels like Talea working for a brewery is kind of like a bit of a beast because you have the arm that is the beer sales and making the beer, which is almost functions as a CPG company. And we have a really talented head of sales. It's like focused on getting us into the big chains, getting us into Target and Whole Foods and Trader Joe's. Yeah. And then you have the arm that is the hospitality arm. And we have a head of hospitality, and I work closely with her to kind of build brand experience there and what are people's experience when they walk into the brick and mortar. And then there's the whole digital e-commerce side and how people are experiencing Talea online, whether they live in New York and can come into the brick and mortar or don't, and are just kind of like seeing us in the internet ether and hopefully one day getting to visit.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. On the digital side of things, right? Like, what does that community kind of look like? Like, do you have a lot of followers? Like, we were just talking in Ohio. Yeah. Not specifically in Ohio, but like a lot of followers that like are outside of New York. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so for like our email subscriber and Instagram data, I think it's like 88% in New York City. So most people are local here, but because we've done some of these bigger national partnerships or partnerships with national brands, we have a following of people that are outside of the tri-state area and outside of New York that, you know, we'll get comments of like, can't wait till you come here, or like trying to ordered merch online, like we'll visit when I can. And that's great for us because we want to be a destination people go to when they come to New York City. We want to be a brand, because I have places like that I admire from like other cities where I'm like, just have like a little brand crush on them. And I'm like, if I ever go to that city, I like want to go to that place. And so for 12% of our email and Instagram subscribers, that's what we are, is just kind of like a brand you have a crush on, we're fine with that.
Yeah. I think it's really, I definitely think it's really cool. And you know, the other thing that I was like thinking about too is like, even if you don't have these individuals that are like in New York City, right? Like, so that, I don't know, like that 20%, right? That's creating like word of mouth for you.
Totally. Yes. And we get a lot of people who come into the tap rooms and are like, I have been wanting to come here for so long. I've been following you forever. Or even like, I bought the beer at a Wegmans upstate and have been wanting to come and try it in the tap rooms. So that's really cool and special and like cool to be a part of that customer journey.
Yeah, totally. Right. Like the discovery in retail and then like being able to come to it. You know what? Beer in general, craft beer is such like an interesting phenomenon. Yeah. That's been going on for quite some time, right? Like we were talking about this off camera, like, I'm originally from the Bay area.
Same.
And like in the Bay, in San Francisco Bay, for anybody listening, or like, who is the Bay? San Francisco, Oakland, Bay Area, right? Craft beer was like a thing
since I was a kid. Like it's been such a part of I was gonna say like growing up, which makes it sound like I was drinking beer growing up, but like being at brewery.
You're like, I was 8.
I was 8. My dad handed me a West Coast IPA. Going to breweries on the weekends and like hanging out for hours, and the parents were drinking, the kids were, I don't know, running around eating from food trucks. Like,
dude. Keep going. Yes. I was just like imagining like all the breweries.
Yes.
On a Saturday.
It's such a clear, and it's just so, I think, like quintessential what I like. That was such a typical Saturday, and it was still a very typical Saturday for my parents, who are still in the Bay, which is great. And now they bring their dog instead of me. Yeah. Who they love more than me.
As it goes.
But that experience, is not really a New York experience. There are so many less breweries per capita in New York than in other cities. Yeah. I mean, which makes sense with rent and how expensive to have a big enough space. But to me, that experience of getting to hang out on a weekend, and beer's low ABV. You can have 3 beers and have it be the same as maybe 1 cocktail, and getting to just like chat and catch up and hang out, like that, to me, that is how I, as a millennial woman who is it's getting harder and harder to see people I love, that's how I want to spend a weekend. And so interesting to me, like that experience of getting to catch up with friends and have this like really intentional quality time that's extended over a period of a few hours is so incredibly female to like paint in broad strokes. So it's so interesting that craft beer traditionally has been so predominantly male and catered towards males. And so we really want to change that and invite people into these spaces that are more, I'm going to say more beautiful. Yeah. Like, you're not sitting on a barrel. You're not sitting in an industrial space. We take a lot of inspiration from wineries and cocktail bars, and we want you to like come in and feel really welcomed and comfortable in the spaces, and like you want to spend a lot of time there.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you're trying to recreate that like West Coast like
Yes.
weekend thing. When you were talking, I was thinking about Lagunitas.
Oh yeah.
Because I live in Chicago, right? And a lot of people are like, "Oh, Lagunitas is from Chicago." And I'm like, "Oh no, honey. Lagunitas is from the North Bay."
Yes.
Okay.
And it's being at that, it's such a beautiful tap room. It's such a great experience.
Oh,
being
it's
there.
such a good experience because it's like this experience that like Megan was like describing, right? Like you go into a tap room and it's like all like community and like it's not just about like beer. It's like a beautiful space. Like the whole purpose of going to breweries on the weekends and this culture in the Bay is because it's like they're beautiful spaces. You can get food, like all these things, right? But the Lagunitas one is like an outdoors one. They do like music, the kids thing.
Yes.
There's even like a playground. I think.
And that's the line we won't quite cross.
We
do
keep your
cater.
kids at home.
We do. I mean, our co-founders are both moms, and parents at breweries is like a big thing. And so we have a kids music class on Sunday mornings, and we're open. We have really long hours for brewery. We're open 10 to 10 at most locations.
Yeah.
So the idea is that you can come in the morning and like work from our spaces and then transition to a beer at 5 p.m. and have like coffee and a ricotta toast during the day and then switch to a beer and spicy nuts. Yeah. So during the day, like we have a lot of moms with strollers coming in and hanging out and having a hazy and on a Sunday morning, because that's low traffic times for us. So we're like, we'll invite the families in. Come on in.
So, yeah, I think, I mean, exactly, though. So going back to, like, brand experience, right? Going specifically about brand experience, it's like, beer's just not about, like, okay, getting drunk. It's about community building, right? Like, the beer, like, what you're creating.
Exactly. I think breweries are a perfect third space. They're a perfect place for community building. They're usually big, and like I said, we have long hours, so we can do a lot of different programming. So we do Saturday morning yoga every week in the tap rooms, and we want the person who is a yogi who maybe hasn't tried beer before to like come in for a yoga class and maybe stay for a beer. We want the parents who are on maternity leave to like come in during the day and like catch up with other moms, and we want the like 30-year-old group of friends to come in on a Saturday and like hang out for a long time. And I think what's unique about beer is it's low ABV, you can like stay for a long time and enjoy, and beer is so unique. Like beer can be such a natural conversation starter. I think the experience we want on, say, like a Saturday in the tap room is you go in, you order a flight of beers, and some of them are going to be flavors you're somewhat familiar with, like a hazy IPA that's with a little bit of mango as a flavor note, and some might be this like totally insane tropic berry beer, or like we have an experimental bagel beer on right now, and you bring that over to your table, and it's an experience sipping through a flight with a friend and talking about the beer, and you get to like really take your time and be thoughtful about it. And you can be just as like snobby with a beer flight as you can with a wine flight. You can take your time and like do all the tasting notes and all that stuff.
I mean,
but it feels
trust me, there's a lot of beer snobs out there.
I've
dated
them.
Yeah.
But know the type well. But it can be, you can take it seriously and thoughtfully and like really taste through the flavor notes the way that you do for a wine flight, if that's what you want, or beer can be very casual.
Right. Yeah, and I think what's also another revolution, right, is like, so we went through this like craft beer piece of it, right? But now there's a lot of NAs.
Yes.
Non-alcoholic coming out. And so it's like you can still enjoy the taste of a beer. Like a beer isn't just about getting drunk.
No.
A beer is about like, what you're saying is community building.
Yes, and like all of our beers, I think we have one beer, we now have a triple IPA, it's our first ever, but most of our beer is in the 5.4, is around 5 to 6% maximum. So our beer is pretty low ABV, and like you said, the NA has been a huge part of this past year. NA is one of the only growing categories in craft beer. I'm sure it's, for people who are in hospitality, it's not surprised, like beer, wine, and spirits are kind of on a downturn, but NA is the category in craft beer that is really growing. So we invested pretty heavily in it this year because we want anyone to be able to have an experience at the tap rooms. And I think that's what differentiates us from other breweries who are really into their like very bitter IPAs or their kind of hype beers with these crazy hops that they got from wherever.
I don't understand that. I like truly don't understand that.
It's definitely a thing.
Tell me more about like, tell me. Okay, so for somebody who's not into beer,
yes,
right? Let's just walk through what it means for these hops and like all of this stuff, right?
Yeah, I will talk to it the best that I can because we don't. Hop culture and like hype beer culture is definitely a thing, and there are, like you said, craft beer nerds and maybe some of your exes that are really into these hops that are coming from this new region. It's new grower, and they're coming out in this brewery is using these hops in this upcoming beer, and I think that's cool. If that's what you're into, I think that that's cool, and I think that it can be really thoughtful. And like, I'm a fangirl for lots of things, so if that's what you want to fangirl over, I think that's great. I think that that category of consumer in beer has become pretty insular and not very welcoming of people who are new to beer and maybe have questions of like, what is a West Coast IPA?
Right.
If you're going to the type of brewery that has a line out the door when they are dropping a new hype beer and you are a consumer that's not a beer person who's coming in just to have a good time with your friends on a Saturday, and you maybe usually drink rosé, and you're like, ask the bartender a question, like, what is a hazy? They might feel pretty, like, I think a lot of people have an experience of being made to feel stupid or dumb for not knowing those things.
Yeah, I don't know what a hazy is. I mean, I drink a hazy.
But like what the technical...
I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah,
I like
tastes
the taste.
Good. Yes.
You know?
Yeah, and some people, you know, are super technical about wanting to know those things, and some people are like, I know that it's a little bit more tropical, and so I like it. And that's kind of what we care about for consumers, and we have very talented brewers that can go into all those details, and we have bartenders that love beer and can go into those details. But I think we're catering for the people who are like, I like that taste. And I didn't think I would like the taste of a hazy IPA. I didn't think I'd like a sour. Right. And I didn't think I was a beer person at all. But because I came here and had a more welcoming experience, it turns out like I kind of am a beer girl. So.
Yeah. I mean, again, going back to brand experience, it's not just about like experiential marketing and like events, right? It's about the consumer's experience with your product, right? And like building community.
Yes.
Actually, going into experiential marketing though, I'm curious, like in just coming from like that events manager background, I'm curious if like there was ever like a concept that you were unsure about and then ended up to be really successful.
Oh, totally. So we do a lot of events. That's kind of the bread and butter of what I do. We have, I think it's now 5, 6 weekly events that recur throughout the tap room. And then we try to do an additional 4 to 6 a month. And they range from a journaling class about setting intentions to oyster and beer pairing to Taylor Swift trivia. So
love.
Yes. So that one, Taylor Swift trivia I knew would be good. But we did last year an oyster and beer pairing class, which maybe pretty disparate in terms of I think people pair oyster with champagne usually, but like an oyster and a stout is actually a pretty classic combo. So we had these oyster farmers come in from Long Island. They're called Little Ram. They're a female-owned oyster company. We had Billion Oysters come in, and we did this beer pairing with a beer flight with oysters, and people got so into it. Like by the end of the class, I thought half the class was going to go buy an oyster farm. They were so engaged, and it was so special to like see people on a second date and kind of having this experience together, and seeing, you know, men in their 50s and 60s there because they're foodies and they're really wanting to try these new oysters, and then people having fun because it's kind of beers. What I love about beer is it can be you can take it seriously, but it can be very casual, like I was saying, and kind of silly. Like, does every beer pair perfectly with an oyster? No, but you're learning about both things and you're doing both things thoughtfully throughout the class. And so it was just such a special event that we weren't sure how it was going to go, and people ended up really loving it. And I think having a deeper experience with both brands, with us and Little Rams and Billion Oyster. And I think that's what all the event's about for me, is if you can have a great experience going to the tap room, chatting with a bartender, getting a great beer, or you can have a really unique, deep experience by showing up for a 2-hour oyster pairing class or a journaling class or Taylor Swift trivia.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of my avenue in the business, is getting people to have these really deep experiences through the events and then hopefully retain them and get them coming back.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, okay, so like most people, when we're talking about, again, like the experience, customer experience, all those things come from the digital world where you can like do like look at data.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
How do you measure success from like an event?
Yeah.
Or even like measure the success from an event, but also like even think about it from a retention perspective?
Yeah, it's hard, and I think we're still figuring out the best way to track that data. We can use sales data. So a lot of the time, you know, we will measure an event through sales of like, did we boost sales by 20%? Great. We now have a rewards program.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we use Como, which has been pretty great. So we can track their behavior a bit more deeply if you are in our rewards program. So that's a nice one too. It's like if you attend an event and then sign up for our rewards program, that's huge for us because that's how we do our SMS texting, and that's how we offer a free monthly half pour. Everyone should join.
Yeah.
And kind of keep people coming back that way. But it's tough because sometimes, you know, I'm at an event. If I'm at Taylor Swift trivia and people are standing on the benches singing All Too Well at the end of the event, that's to me such a magical moment that people are going to remember Talea for, that I can't put into data. I can only describe in an end of night report.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Man, that's, I mean, yeah, like there's no, in like the restaurant industry, right?
Yeah.
Like in the, like there's no, you can only really look at sales,
Yes.
right? But then what I think is really interesting is like you having this like rewards and loyalty program,
Yes.
because that's what really ties them back
Yes.
to continuously purchasing.
So that we can see the average number of monthly visits. So I think our average number of monthly visits for our rewards members is like 1.26 visits per month.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good, but I mean, we'd love it too. We'd love you to come twice a month to Talea, or even more than that if you're working from Talea every day. So that's what we're really looking at, is how do we build the rewards program so we can track that more intentionally, and because if you're in the rewards program, we think you're more likely to increase your amount of monthly visits.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then do you do any sort of like surprise and delight things? I mean, that's what we like call
Yes.
it, right?
Yeah.
Like, what do you do? Like, yeah, like what's your surprise and delight look like for that loyalty program?
Yeah. So if you are part of the rewards program, you get your birthday month, you get a free pour. And then every month we text you with a special deal. And sometimes we have this new beer, we're really excited about it. Come get like a complimentary half pour on the house, which is for us like, oh my gosh, what's math? It's like like a 6-ounce pour. And the hope is like you come in for your little pour and then you keep ordering. Or we'll do,
It's like a
this
hook.
Yes, like this month we have like a buy one get one, and you can come in, and then ideally rewards members get like first dibs on tickets and discounts on certain things, and that's something we're still, you know, building out. We have a pretty small team. But yeah, that's surprise. I love getting to like send people that like monthly text of like, this is on us if you come in, or getting it's your birthday month. I mean, I know so many companies do birthday month things, but because usually we're pretty local for people, it's a little bit easier to redeem.
Yeah, for sure. But to be honest with you, like the loyalty strategy that you have is so similar to everybody else.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Like I was talking with actually talking with somebody and they're like looking to build out their loyalty program, right? And it's a hydration company. And they were like, oh, you know, we want to build out like the surprise and delight piece.
Yeah.
And so it's like a little bit different. Like there's the loyalty piece and then there's a subscription piece, right? And they wanted to build out the subscription piece and like to like essentially retain the customers over 3 months. But I was like, it's really an addition of like adding a level of loyalty on it. And then even on the surprise and delight, like going back to my original point though, is that there's not much you can really offer other than like birthday and like a free something.
Yeah.
Or and that free something, whether e-commerce or brick and mortar, is like in-person experience or merch, right? And then exclusivity to events, and like, or you know, first access. But there's really not many things you can offer.
Yeah, and we're working on trying to see. Oops, sorry.
No, you're right.
we're working on trying to see what else we can do, like, because we're so founder led. There are people that are so invested in like the founder story. So some, as we're building out, we're working on doing hopefully a like pretty big offsite conference in the fall. And we're like, how can we invite our rewards members in to have like a coffee date with the founders beforehand, or how like maybe we invite people for an exclusive brewery tour. But yeah, in terms like it's pretty similar to what other people do.
I mean, it's like you either give access to that founder story or like access to like the company, right? But there's really not much.
Yeah.
And it's not, and I'm not trying to be like, oh, I'm not trying to downplay it, but it's not the most complicated thing.
No, I think
people just want free stuff.
It's so crazy. Like I will ideate like the most intricate like storytelling of an event. Like last year we released a beer based on an Aperol spritz, and I was like, we're gonna do an aperitivo hour, and if you get the beer you get this little plate. And I was like, we could have bocce, like I was looking up Italian card games and all of this stuff, and that event that had this, like, to me, it was like at a theater, producing background, was like, oh, this is so unique and cool and such a differentiator. And that is nothing compared to what we do, what the traffic we get when we say, if you buy this, you get a free this.
Yeah.
And, we've done that we did a beer, Tony's Chocolonis. If you come and order the beer, you get a free chocolate bar. That's a $7 chocolate bar. That's like a big thing. We did a beer with Fly by Jing. If you come in, you get a free chili jar sample, which, again, that's probably, I don't know what it costs for them to make, but like it's not like a huge, the cost of goods is minimal for them, but people are so driven by free stuff. Yeah. And so
driven by free stuff. Yeah. I mean, totally. Like, listen, I know this is a little bit of a digital example, right? But like, one of the companies that I worked for in the past, like one of the e-commerce companies, we put together like this chat bot, and it got a ton of engagement and people loved it, right? But then when you looked at the sales, people were just searching for a discount. Yeah. My point is, right, is like people just want free stuff. Yes. Right? So like, and I'm curious for you, is like when you're thinking about like any of these like loyalty programs of like getting this for free, or even just, or the Tony's Chocolonis, like what do you look through from like a metrics perspective or like a margin perspective to ensure you're not losing money on it?
Yeah, the margins in beer are quite good. Yeah. So what we try to look at is if a tab that has a comp on it, that has a free whatever on it, making sure that their average check size, like what they got on top of the free thing, is still matching what the average check size is. Or like, when we're giving away a free half pour or whatever, it's like, what's the check size of the people who got this free half pour? And hypothetically, we are making an assumption of, is that money we wouldn't have gotten if they had not come in for the free thing? Right. So, the giving away beer, giving away a half pour, it doesn't cost us a lot of cost of goods on the internal side. So, but it just becomes about, we don't want to discount the brand, or so we're very particular about when we do it, and that's why doing it for rewards is such a special thing, because we really try not to. We don't have a happy hour. Like we very rarely run like sales or discounts. So if you're getting that free half pour or that gift with purchase, it's kind of a more rare experience for us.
Yeah, but again, and you bring up a really good point though, right? Like discounting, you don't want to overly discount your brand, because then people expect that.
Right. We don't want to be Macy's, where it's like, why would I buy that full price? Because they're going to run an amazing sale. And I love Macy's for that.
I know. Oh my God. Macy's, my friend and I joke that like Macy's literally will just give you the stuff for free.
Yeah. I will not. Why would you buy something full price at Macy's? Like just wait 4 days. There's probably going to be a sale.
I literally. And a coupon. Yes. For your birthday. Right. Plus this and this.
Yes, plus the card, the loyalty card. I remember my mom had that whatever Macy's credit card. It was
Dude, I still have my Macy's credit card.
It's a good credit card.
I don't want to age myself, but I'm about to age myself because I just realized in this moment I've had that card for 20 years.
That's amazing. And that's brand loyalty, baby.
I know, right? And I'm pretty sure that was like my first credit card was a department store one because I got hook, line, and sinker.
Yes.
You know?
Oh my gosh. My first credit card was a Victoria's Secret credit card.
Oh.
That ruined my
Why
credit
did we
score
need
because
that?
I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
still have some bitterness towards.
Yeah. I mean, trust me, like that. The world in those days.
Oh my gosh.
Was like in those days.
Yes.
But literally 20 years ago,
That
it was
was the
just like
move.
scammy.
Yeah.
You know, credit all the time, right? But yeah, I still have my Macy's card, and I still get my birthday thing.
It's a good deal.
But to be honest, I only go to Macy's. And I'm thinking of a department store. I only go to Macy's, right? But I don't shop there that often. Like I really only buy like housewares.
I sometimes forget about department stores.
Yeah.
This is such a but like I'm shopping for a trip and I was going online and I was on Anthropologie and I was on Nuuly and then I was like, where can I go and have there be a bunch of dresses so I can try a bunch of things? And I was like, it took me so long to be like, I could go to a department store.
I know.
That is the point. Like there are a ton of brands in one space. I forgot about them. They need a rebrand. Department stores need a rebrand.
I think they need to have a moment. I know. I mean, I totally know. But you know what's really interesting when we talk about e-com and retail? I'm actually noticing a trend, and I don't know how true this is. There's no data in this, right? But like, it's something that I've noticed in the last like at least 6 months. People are not shopping as much as in e-commerce as they are in retail because of that, like trying on,
Yes.
touch, feel, right?
I think we're a little burnt out from this is obviously very like my own experience, but I'm in a group chat right now about a bunch of girls buying things for a bachelorette party, and all of them ordered stuff online because we had specific themes, and everyone was frustrated by their online shopping experience. Everything showed up and didn't fit or fit weird, etc. And then they all ended up going to the mall, and I was like, oh look, like, I can go to 6 stores in 3 hours.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. There was like a beauty thing that I did, and it was like in the mall in Chicago, like the suite for the esthetician. And I was like, wow, I could shop at so many places
I know.
right now.
I know. It's also mall culture is really not New York. So when I'm at
it's not really like Chicago either, unless I'm like in the suburbs.
Right.
And like, I don't want to ever go to the suburbs.
No. I recently found out that there's outlets in Queens, and I got so excited.
What?
Yes. Forest Hills. There's a J. Crew outlet.
Who knew?
Banana Republic Factory.
Girl.
Yeah, so
we're going shopping.
I can't recommend it enough. Love an outlet.
Okay, I have a quick question for you before we wrap this up.
Yes.
So I'd love to know where the name Talea came from.
Yeah, so it is a combination of our founders' first names. So our founders are Tara and Leanne, and they had a bunch of names they were considering for a long time. They wanted to be Weekender Ales or something like that, some Weekender something. And it's really hard to trademark an alcohol because there are a lot of alcohol brands and beers and names, etc. So eventually they were like, you know what? We're just going to make up a word, and they combine their names.
I love that.
And so there we are. It's Talea.
Okay, I love that, but not to be confused with Talea
Or Talea.
Talea.
Yes. I'll set the record. It is Talea.
Talea.
I like to say like ladies. Talea like ladies. But we kind of like that the pronunciation is like a little bit of a mystery. It's kind of like a nice conversation starter for people.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, Megan, I really appreciate you coming on.
Of course.
I will definitely put Talea website in the show notes, but tell the homies where they can find you if they're ever looking to do something with Talea.
Talea, nailed it. Yeah,
I know. I was.
See, but it makes you, if you have to say our name twice, I think
You'll
that's
never
good.
forget it.
Exactly. Yeah. I probably think the best place is on LinkedIn. I'm Megan Fitzgerald, I think /2 or something on LinkedIn, but the one at Talea. And then I will sometimes post my Talea journey on Instagram, which is I'm only Megan Fitz on Instagram.
Okay, fun. Well, I appreciate you coming on.
Of course.
Thank you so much. And to everybody tuning in, we will see you next week. So see you there.
Dang, we've made it to the end of the podcast and you're still here. So thank you so much for listening to Above the Fold podcast. For the best of this episode and every episode, be sure to follow us on Instagram and my YouTube channel. And for deeper dives on the secrets to brand success, don't forget to subscribe to my weekly newsletter, Sunday Postcards. All right, my dudes and gals, see you next week.